there, Tiago. This lesson is recorded only for you. So I hope you have a great time and also learn the best you can. Let's get started. We're going to start here from the point I recorded the last lesson. So I recorded the lesson on page 61. We are now here on your vocabulary notebook, a time and a place. Only for you to know, the vocabulary notebook is a part where you, student, should do yourself without the teacher's help. But since I am recording this lesson for you, I will perform a couple of activities with you and explain the others, okay? Well, in the vocabulary notebook, you see the learning tip linking ideas. There is always a vocabulary notebook at the end of a unit, in unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until 12. So you should take a look in each one of the units to review content. The first part of this vocabulary notebook part is, when do you usually do these things each day? Write the times. So think about your routine and then write the correct times for you. I eat breakfast at 7 a.m. I start work because I don't go to work at 8 a.m. I always eat lunch at noon or midday. I finish work at 9. I never get home. I have dinner at 8 or 9 p.m. and I go to bed sometimes at 11 p.m. When you finish completing the task, you should speak. Speak to yourself. There's no problem with that. Pause the video and do the activity first. Go there. Now that you have already paused the video, let's speak. So I never get up at 6:30 a.m. I always get up at 6 a.m. Always in the morning. I always eat breakfast at 7 a.m. I love breakfast. Breakfast is my favorite meal. I sometimes go to work at 8 a.m. I start work at 8 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I start work at 9. What about you? I always eat lunch at midday or 12:30. Sometimes it happens. I always finish work at 9 p.m. What about you? I never get home because I work from home. What about you? I usually have dinner at 8 or 9 p.m. Sometimes I have dinner at 7 p.m. I always go to bed at 11 or midnight. Now, stop for a moment, pause the video, and speak yourself about your routine and what time you do these things to practice. If you want to, send me an audio on WhatsApp, because then I listen to you and help you with any piece of language you need. Deal? Well, now that you have already done the activity, let's go to a daily planner. This daily planner you are going to do on your computer. It's important that you do that. It's part of your study routine. And think about the things you do and the things your family usually does at different times. So in my planner, in Eileen's planner, there will be something like that. I wake up at 6 a.m. But my mom wakes up at 8 a.m. and my brother wakes up 10 a.m. So we have different routines in the morning, right? Do that for each time of your planner from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. if this is the time where you finish your routine, because then you're going to practice more. So write about that. And please let me see your planner later. At the end of your notebook, at the end of your vocabulary notebook, there is this part. And these you also see in every unit. Here, you are going to tick the things you can do successfully and the things you need some review on. Remember that the things you need review are the things you send to me, because then I can help you with that. So it is your job to tick each one of the boxes. Let's just read the boxes together. I can describe a neighborhood. Yes or no? I can ask for and tell the time. I can make suggestions. I can show I have something in common with someone. I can agree with someone. I can understand announcements about events. I can understand conversations about arrangements. I can read a travel guide. I can write a city travel guide. Check the boxes of the things you do know how to do, and if you have any questions, send them to me. Now we are going to our checkpoint. The checkpoint is very important in this book because it will give you exercises that are all about the things we studied. So let's go to our number 1. That's not quite right. Which of these sentences are true for you? Check true or false according to you, and then correct the false sentences. So before we do the exercise, please pause the video and check the correct boxes for you, true or false. Pause the video now. Now that you have already paused the video, let's go to my answers and you compare your answers to my answers, okay? Our English class is in the morning. Well, for both of us, this is false. Our English classes are in the evening. Why can't I say our English classes are in the night? Because in the night is the period where we are sleeping from 1 a.m. until 4 a.m. This is in the night, okay? So we have classes in the evening. I never come to class late. What was your answer? My answer was true. I hate being late. I need to be there on time. What about you? We have class 3 times a week. Well, for us, this is true. I believe this is a match. 4, there are 30 students in this room. That one is false. How do you correct this sentence? There is 1 student in this classroom. There is a coffee break at 10:30 a.m. For us, this is also false. How do you correct this sentence? There is no coffee break, right? 6, we have a lot of homework. True. Is this true? I don't think so. 7, the students sometimes eat in class. Well, that's not a problem for me. If you're hungry, just eat, have fun. 8, our teacher drives a car to class. Is this true or false? And how do you correct this sentence? Our teacher works from home. 9, cell phones often ring in class. False. And how do you correct this sentence? Cell phones hardly ever ring in class, right? 10, we go out to a club after class. So false, so sad. And how do you correct this sentence? We never go out to a club after class, or we don't go out to a club after class. Now that you have already done this exercise, let's go to our number 2. How much do you know about your teacher, Tiago? Complete the sentences to make guesses about your teacher. In this exercise, you are going to ask to me questions related to these topics. So you will transform each one of them into questions. Let's think before you ask the questions, what possible verbs I could use here with each one of those expressions. So for example, books, read. Do you read a lot of books? This is my possible answer. I don't read a lot of books. Dailin doesn't read a lot of books. What verb can I use with the news on TV? Watch. So, teacher, do you watch the news on TV every night? 3, what verb can I use here? Teacher, do you talk to your parents every day? What about here? What verb can I use? Spend. Teacher, do you spend an hour a day on the internet? 5, what verb can I use here? Wake up. Teacher, do you wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekends? And the last one, teacher, do you play tennis very well? I want you to add, do you want to play tennis very well? Because this is something maybe I want to do. Now, say the questions once again to practice. Say after me. Do you read a lot of books? Do you watch the news on TV every night? Do you talk to your parents? Do you spend an hour a day on the internet? Do you wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekends? Do you want to play tennis very well? Now, before we continue, pause the video and try to guess my answers. What are my answers to these questions? Do you think I read a lot of books? Think for a moment, pause the video, and come back because I'm going to give you my answers. Now that you have already paused the video, I will give you my answers, and you should say if your guesses are right or wrong. So, if you tell me, do you read a lot of books? Yes, I do. I love books very much. Number 2, if you ask me, do you watch the news on TV every night? No, I don't. I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news on TV every night. I watch the news in the morning, every morning. Do you talk to your parents? Yes, I do. I talk to my mother every day. Do you spend an hour a day on the internet? No, I don't. I spend more than an hour on the internet every night, every day, every morning. Do you wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekends? Yes, I usually wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekends. Do you want to play tennis very well? Yes, I do. I don't know why I love tennis and I want to play tennis very well in the future. Now, think about your answers. What are your answers to those questions? Write them down and send the questions to me, okay? Because now we are going to our next exercise. How well you know your city. Let's talk about São Paulo, if you prefer Embu das Artes, or a different city that comes to your mind. Complete this chart with words that are about the neighborhood you want to talk about. Here, you think about places in the city, and here, you think about words to describe the places in the city. What places could you add here? What words could you add to describe places here? Let's see, let's compare. So places in the city, restaurant, I also thought of museum, club, bookstore, public parks, and supermarket. Now it's your turn. Complete the chart with your ideas. Pause the video now and do it. Now that you have already paused the video, let's go to words to describe places. expensive, big, interesting, cheap, different, polluted. Now pause the video and complete the chart with different words, words that come to your mind. Now that you have already paused the video, let's describe each one of these places in the city with the words we added to the chart. For example, in Budas Artes, there are many restaurants, but I think that most restaurants are expensive here. You pay a lot if you want to eat good food. If you want to go to a cheap restaurant, then you go to Taboão da Serra. There are a couple of restaurants there that are good. They are really good, and you don't pay a lot. They are not very expensive. This was my example. Don't forget that you could also use these expressions: a couple of, some, a lot of, or no. Like in my example, I said, in Taboão, there are a couple of restaurants. Try to use those expressions to describe the places in the city. Now it's your turn. Pause the video and write your options or speak. If you want to, don't forget that you can send an audio on WhatsApp to me so I can help you with your language. Now that you have already done the activity, let's go to our next task. Remember that in this last unit, we learned how to create questions, different questions after asking a question. So ask a question in 2 different ways and answer more than yes or no. Write a second question for each question below. So let's take a look at number 1. What's your neighborhood like? I mean, do you like it? So there are 2 questions, 1 question following the first. Your job is to create the second questions to each one of the numbers. Pause the video and do the activity now. Now that you have already paused the video, let's compare our answers. How often do you text your friends? I mean, do you talk to your friends every day? 3. What kinds of sports do you watch on TV? I mean, are there good sports to watch? 4. What time do you get up on weekends? I mean, do you always get up early? And 5. Who does the laundry at your house? I mean, do you have a maid? Are your questions similar to the questions I created? Tell me. Now, we are going to answer those questions. Remember that when you answer to those questions, you have to say more than yes or no. So what's your neighborhood like? I mean, do you like it? Well, my neighborhood is very boring. There are no parks, there are no supermarkets, there is no nothing. There is only trees all around, lots of trees, and there are many different animals. What about your neighborhood, Tiago? Number 2, how often do you text your friends? I mean, do you talk to your friends every day? Well, if I say that I text to my friends every day, that's not true. But I talk to them every week, every other day. I talk on Monday, not on Tuesday. Yes, on Wednesday, not on Thursday. What about you? Do you talk to your friends every day? What kinds of sports do you watch on TV? I mean, are there good sports to watch? As for me, I don't watch sports on TV, only when there are the Olympic Games. And then I watch the gymnastics. I love watching the gymnastics. It's adventurous, very interesting. 4. What time do you get up on the weekends? I mean, do you always get up early? I usually get up at 6 a.m. And yes, I always get up early because my body likes to wake up early. What about you? Do you always get up early? I know that you get up at 5 a.m. Is it always like that every day? And 5, who does the laundry at your house? I mean, do you have a maid? If you don't know the word maid, maid is that person that works for you in your house. You pay money and she or he cleans the house. So I do the laundry in my house. I don't have a maid for that, unfortunately. And it's not a big deal because I have a machine, a washing machine. So the machine does everything. What about you, Tiago? Who does the laundry at your house? Do you have a maid? Remember that you have to answer more than yes or no and create a second question to each one of those in this exercise. Now that you have already answered to everything, let's go to our next exercise, number 5. Are you the same or different? Before we do the exercise, look at the words. They are weird. It's your job to put the letters in order, so you create words that you know. The words presented here, they are all about TV shows. There are 8 kinds of TV shows in this exercise. The first one, cartoon. Pause the video and find the other words. Unscramble the letters. Pause the video now. Now that you have already paused the video, let's compare our answers. First one, cartoon. Second, game show. Next, sitcom. Next, talk show. Next, soap opera. Next, the news. Then, reality show. And the last one, documentary. Since we are alone, and this is a recorded lesson, I want you to speak about each one of the TV shows individually. Give me your opinion about each one of them. So to give you an example, I love cartoons. I love cartoons very much. When my kids watch TV, sometimes I sit and watch cartoons with my kids because I feel happy when I watch cartoons. But some cartoons are very ridiculous, let's say. Game shows. I don't like game shows very much. I rarely watch them. The last game show I watched, maybe when Silvio Santos presented it, long time ago. Sitcom. I really enjoy watching sitcoms. I love them very much. My favorite is Friends. And now I am not watching any sitcom. I need to find a new one. What about you? Talk shows. Well, I also don't like talk shows very much. I don't remember the last talk show I watched. Not my favorite kind. Soap operas. If I talk about soap operas, this is something I also don't watch. I never watch soap operas. They are boring. They are always the same. It's always the same story. No, thank you. For me. The news. I often watch the news in the mornings. I like to watch the news nowadays because I think it's important to understand what happens in the world. Reality shows. I'm not a fan of reality shows. I hardly ever watch them. The last reality show I watched was something, I don't remember its name. It was horrible. What about you? And documentaries, they're one of my favorite kinds of TV shows. The last documentary I watched was The Last Czars in Russia, Os Últimos Czares da Rússia. And it was a really good one, really good story. Now that you have already talked about your favorite TV shows, send me the audio on WhatsApp and let's go to our last exercise. What's your routine? Complete the questions with a verb. Can you think of 4 more questions? So here you are going to think about one verb to complete the question presented here above. So what time do you have breakfast? What time do you to work or to class? Complete each one of those gaps and this one with a full question. And pause the video, do it, and then come back because we are going to compare our answers. Pause the video now. Now that you have already paused the video, let's compare our answers, shall we? What time do you have breakfast? What time do you go to work or to class? What time do you arrive home at night? And my last question, what time do you do your homework? Repeat the questions after me to practice, please. What time do you have breakfast? What time do you go to work or to class? What time do you arrive home at night? What time do you do your homework? Now let's go to our when do you. When do you have time with your family? When do you go out with your friends? When do you go to the movies? And my last question, when do you try new restaurants? Let's repeat the questions after me to practice. When do you have time with your family? When do you go out with your friends? When do you go to the movies? When do you try new restaurants? How often do you? My first one is, how often do you work out at the gym? How often do you take the subway or the bus? How often do you check your email? And how often do you watch cartoons? Repeat the questions after me to practice, please. How often do you work out at the gym? How often do you take the subway or the bus? How often do you check your email? How often do you watch cartoons? To our last one, where do you? Where do you do your homework? Where do you go shopping? Where do you eat lunch? And my last question, where do you buy clothes? Let's repeat the questions after me. Where do you do your homework? Where do you go shopping? Where do you eat lunch? Where do you buy clothes? Don't worry if you chose different verbs. Many possibilities are okay here. Many verbs are possible to fill the gaps, okay? Just think if your sentence is correct or not with that verb and also the preposition. Because here, to give you an example, I need to use go to the. I don't say see to the, or I don't say want to the movies. When do you want to the movies? I say go to the movies. Or when do you walk to the movies? Okay? Well, now that you understand all of those questions, it's important that you answer the questions. So speak out loud, read the question, and give the answer. If you want to, send me a message on WhatsApp so I help you with the language, please. This is the end of our vocabulary notebook and also our checkpoint. If you have any questions, send them to me. And if you don't understand any exercise, also send me a message. I'll be here to help. Hope you learned a lot. See you next class.